Welcome to ChemAnalyst Leadership Series. Thank you so much for joining in today. Today I have with me Brish Bhan Vaidya, who has been leading Uber's delivery and strategic sourcing division for the APAC region. So let's dive into the conversation. All right, Brish. So, can you share with us your professional journey before joining Uber?
Sure. First of all, thanks for hosting me, Karan. Talking about my professional journey, so 20 plus years in sourcing and procurement domain. If I have to talk about the companies I worked for, I started with Commerce One, which was, in fact, the first company in the world which came with the e-procurement solution as a offering. I spent few years with them, then moved to Genpact and spent few years with Genpact doing transition as well as operations for some of their global customers. And then worked with American Express for around 3.5 years, looking at their APAC operations in the procurement domain. And then a couple of years with Accenture again, consulting. I would say the global customers of Accenture. Then I led procurement transformation for British Telecom globally, and for last 8.5 years, I have been with Uber. So in my current role, I head the strategic sourcing function for Uber for Asia Pacific. Then I run a couple of global capabilities. One of them is global, buying center, which actually looks at non-strategic spend for the whole world. Then I look at, the contract management program also globally, and anything to do with, the transformation in the procurement and the sourcing domain. So I'm actually looking at that. So this has been my, journey around the companies. The type of the roles I've done almost everything. That's how I sometime think. I have done strategic sourcing, procurement operations, solution design, consulting, transformation. In fact, at the start of my career, I was actually selling the procurement solutions also, so have seen that side of the world also. Yeah, that's what
Nice,
me.
nice. So, what motivated your decision to join Uber?
Interesting question. So before Uber, I was actually spending time, consulting some of the organizations or as an independent or an individual contributor. There were challenges, when you have to run your own kind of setup. Things are not that easy. So I saw I was not getting payments timely from, the customers I was actually, supporting. And in between, someone from Uber called me up saying, okay, we are starting a team in India. So would you be keen? I was reading a lot about Uber, and I think that was the time when a lot of investment had come to India also. And Uber was anyway emerging brand, and it was a company which everyone was looking at. So I think it was a combination of everything. I said, if nothing exists in procurement, I am the first person to be hired. No one knows how to do procurement, so there is no perfect opportunity than doing this, because I love actually building things. I love solving things. So immediately I said yes. Yes, it took few months to get onboarded to Uber because it was a pretty long process. But yeah, that was the whole intention I had.
So, it never occurred to you at that time that there were so many challenges in the mobility and transportation sector that were going through, and there were a lot of regulatory issues while Uber was entering the market in US and Europe, and now they're entering the Indian market. So, you were not scared, or you were not. What did you feel like at that time?
So I had worked for global customers in the past also, be it with Genpact or Accenture or even British Telecom. In terms of culture, I would say again, I worked with the stakeholders across the globe. So that part was not scary for me. That how will I kind of work with the global customers? It was a growing company, so I think my excitement to solve was superseding everything else. That's what I would say. And I was pretty confident when you have nothing on ground, that's the best thing that you can do. You can give a shape to the organization, you can give a shape to the processes, to the tools. So I took that challenge, to be honest. Yeah.
So, how different was it from running operations in the US versus APAC or India?
So I would say US was a much larger one. They had a flavor of I would say the sourcing and procurement, because the P2P system was launched there much earlier than India. As I said, there were a couple of colleagues I already had who were actually working with the business, so business had certain set of flavor. India was relatively new, so there was a lot of coaching required to be done. First, to tell people, oh, I have come, right? And it is my responsibility now to look at the sourcing and procurement here, right? Prior to that, as I said, business was doing on their own, right? So going and telling them what you're doing is not your job, it is my job going forward. I would say that was something which was quite different, because no one had that flavor of, okay, someone will come and take the work that they are doing, which they anyway are not supposed to do. So that was, I would say, a major difference I saw here.
So in US, I believe that anybody can put up a car on Uber and they can drive, right? In India, whereas the regulation doesn't allow it, right, and you have to tie up with the taxi drivers. So were there special supply chain challenges that you had to face because of this?
So I would say India definitely has different regulations altogether. I think the regulations are still very different from US. You can't simply, bring your private vehicle on the platform that still
Sure.
exists, right? But this was more of a operations thing to, solve for.
Mhm.
Did it have impact on, the procurement? Answer is yes, because when you are actually negotiating or procuring a service, right, you have to think of what is it that you are allowed to do even after you are taking that service, and what you are not, right? So
Mhm.
that regulatory angle always come. In fact, today also, I would say, when I or my team is doing some sourcing, we have to think about the business. What is the regulatory framework for our business in the market?
Mhm.
Are we allowed to do this, or where the breach would happen, or where is it that the compliance might get negotiated? So that's where we have to think a lot in the supply chain before kind of signing a deal or executing a
Hmm.
deal, I would say.
So how has your leadership style evolved over the years?
It is ever changing, I would say. As I said earlier, when I joined Uber, first of all, it was a cultural shift for me for multiple reasons, and the way Uber's way of working or philosophy is, there is a lot of liberty which is given to the employees to try and test solutions. So I actually started adopting that, and this was the first time, I would say, I got a chance wherein I could experiment with how I need to set up the function, how many people I need, how do I design my processes, what I keep within procurement domain, and what is it I can give to the business to own. So that kind of autonomy always existed, right? And over the period of time, I have seen that becoming better, wherein our decisions are fast. As an individual, I'll definitely say, at least in last 3 to 4 years, what I've seen is that I am looking at the 360 degree of the business than just my domain, because I have understood very well that what are the objectives of my I would say the stakeholders who are running the operations or who are running the P&L. What is it that they are looking at, and how do I impact that, right? So my individual thought process has also changed. I don't just think about procurement and sourcing today. I kind of go and find where is the problem in the business and can I solve that. In fact, one example I can surely give, and I've been giving it for last couple of years now, that beyond sourcing, I actually support the sales team also a lot, be it a simple introduction which I end up doing to the CXO sometime, or it could be getting into the delivery side of the sales here, and see how can my team support that. One of the example I can give here is about managing some portion of the airport operations, also are
Hmm.
looking at how those commercial constructs have
Sure.
been done, right? And how I as a commercial person can actually go and advise, this is how you need to build your response to a particular tender, or this is how you need to kind of deliver your services. So this is not procurement, but the skills are generally the same. So that's how I've seen that, okay, you can do more, and Uber allows you to do that, right?
So do you think that the supply chain is entering the boardrooms now?
I would say yes. Globally, if you look at a lot of companies post COVID, for sure, have been kind of talking about it, that sourcing, procurement, supply chain is now being looked at a value added function. It is being discussed in the boardroom. There have been scenarios wherein some of the CPOs have become part of the boardroom, or even the CFOs are now representing. So there definitely is a big change that has happened. And the coverage that is coming in, I would say the media about the supply chain definitely is very, very different. I mean, talk about our own country, even the prime minister has been talking about the word called supply chain several times, right? And all this has happened, I would say, especially after COVID, wherein people realized, or organizations realized, the value of supply chain. To run your organization, you always need, supply of material and services, right? Plants can run only when you have the supply of material. Even after, you have produced something, and if you want to distribute it further in your supply chain, you need someone to kind of, take that ownership. So that's where I would say this role, or this philosophy, has become more stronger, and definitely it's gaining more and more momentum. And if you talk about any e-com company, again, it's a play of, I would say, the demand and supply. It took time for people to understand, but they now relate it to the supply chain domain. Oh, it's not just the technology that has come. Technology is more of a marketplace, but you have to maintain your supply also based on what your customers are demanding. So yeah, that's my take.
I think it's, if you look at the organizations, and the heads of different departments. So operations guy would be an expert in the operations. He wouldn't have an idea of the sales or, other aspects of the business. Sales guy would be very good in sales, right? HR would be very good in HR and those guys, right? But a supply chain guy is someone who would have the entire business idea. He would understand each and every department. He would understand what their capabilities are. So I think that they are much more suited or much more equipped in terms to understand how to drive the business forward. What are the top 3 key principles that you talk to your team, that whenever you're leading them, so that these things needs to be taken care of?
Okay, so I'll go a step back and I'll talk about what I kind of do in my interview sessions, and I've spoken about this few times in other forums also, right? A very simple question I ask to people: how many of you have Netflix subscription? I can tell you a lot of people raise hand, and I think they feel pride. Oh, Netflix is a paid one, right? And I have that. I'm not getting it from a telecom, right? I paid for it. How many of you have Hotstar? People will raise hand. And the moment you ask them, how many of you have LinkedIn, paid membership? You don't see people raising hand.
Agreed.
And I've still heard a lot of people saying LinkedIn is a platform only to find job, right? They don't want to understand it is for networking, it is for, learning. And why I brought this? So, a couple of things that I always look in my team, or what I keep, telling the team. One, do you really have, the business acumen, right? Do you know what your company does, how it is done, who are the stakeholders, who are the customers, who are the suppliers, who are the functions that impact, right? So you need to understand the full working of, the organization. So this is one thing that I always evaluate, and this is what I always keep talking in my team also. Second is, are people really going beyond their day-to-day work and thinking how they can influence, right? That progressive mindset has to be there, right? Because people say, AI is coming, just by talking about AI won't solve, right?
Right.
Are you actually thinking it from the line how it can impact you, and how you actually can bring, those changes in the organization by deploying that, right? So that second is thought process. Are you crossing your boundaries or not, right? Third definitely is, I would say, the agility and the adaptability, right? Because things would change, right? Not everything is in your control. Sometime it could be a supplier issue, sometime it could be a change in the operation, sometime it could be a regulatory thing, right? How easily and quickly you actually sense that, understand that, and go and find a solution for that. So these are broadly 3 things which I keep talking about in the team, and this is what I always look for, candidates in my team also.
So, can you talk about some of the sourcing innovations that you have implemented?
Sourcing innovations, I would say a couple of things I can talk about, which sourcing kind of pushed, and it's slightly dated now. One of them was the whole model of hiring a contractor in India. I still remember that was, I believe, in 2017. When we saw a problem with our existing supplier in the contractual workspace. They were actually providing manpower, and there was some non-compliance that had happened. We took a call that we need to change the partner, right? So when I was drafting the RFP, I understood the problems of the business. Fine, I mean, you told me there is a problem with the supplier, I'm changing that, but tell me, what are your expectations from the people who are being supplied, and what are the problems you see? And I still remember they telling me that, a lot of our workforce is on the field. We don't even know whether they actually go to the places wherein they are supposed to go, right? Are they doing a 9 to 6 or are they doing 11 to 4 kind of a thing, right? We don't know that, right?
Right.
So I said, okay, if this is the problem, why I'm just changing a vendor, let me ask for additional things also. When I floated that RFP in 2017, I think it was sent to around 8 to 10 suppliers. Every single supplier rejected that RFP saying, what you are asking for doesn't happen. You are asking for a technology product to manage, contractual stuff. Sorry, it doesn't exist. That works for employees, right? Wherein you have a hire to retire system, you can track their attendance, you can do, their biometric and all. But for contractual workforce, it doesn't exist. I think that was a good challenge I found. I said, everyone is rejecting, that means this doesn't exist. So there was a discussion that was done with a few partners. I think one of them raised hands. I will invest in the technology. Let's build this, right? And we ended up building that. And why I brought this example today, every such staffing company, when they go and pitch the solution, this is one of the very basic things that they do. And I've been telling these partners who I work with, 2017, we asked that right question and you guys are selling that technology today. This is one of the innovative one. Second, very quickly, I would say, around 3 to 4 years back, the operations team came to us saying, the driver or the earner is our, very important stakeholder, right? Because they are the one who are running, the business for us, right? And today their onboarding time is say around 24 hours, right? Because when they provide the data, we send it out for verification. It takes a day. And by that time, we lose a lot of these people. And they also sometimes think that I have given everything. Why am not getting my first trip, right? So the problem was the cycle time of, the background check verification. And that's where I think between us as well as our partner, we started doing that discussion. How do we shorten it, right? So with a lot of technology changes, a lot of process changes, that 24-hour window suddenly became, I would say 12 to 13 minutes after a few months, which became an industry benchmark. Today, again, every single provider talks about, this kind of turnaround time, which did not exist before we actually had intervened. And these are some of the examples wherein, our partners come and tell across various domains that you guys gave us a challenge, but yes, you acted as a partner also. And we now have a new offering, or we have an improved product, or we have a better, customer satisfaction happening. So these are some of, I would say procurement driven innovations. These are not, I would say, innovation that happen in procurement domain, but procurement led innovations in the industries, I would say.
So if any of my client comes to me and says that, can you develop this technology specifically for me, right? Like the way you approached your partner, I think I would be very enthusiastic, or I'd be very interested in doing it, because then I know that, okay, if I do this for you, then you're going to stick with me for a longer period of time, right? And probably this is a challenge. That's the reason you're coming to me, that you could not solve it anywhere else, right?
Yeah.
So do you think that a lot of partners, they do not have that kind of broad mindset to capture these kind of opportunities, where you talked about that only one of the partner agreed to do it, and you struggled initially
Yeah.
to get it done. So do you think that this is one of the areas where a lot of companies need to, or the partners, or these entrepreneurs, I would say, need to open up?
I totally agree. They should open up. And in fact, a lot of salespeople, sorry, I'm not blaming anyone. They, a lot of time, would reach a procurement person without even realizing that, oh, they also know a lot about your domain, right? So that pitch has to change. They have to go and talk about what is the real problem of this industry, or what is the problem you are facing, and can we solve that jointly, rather than always going and telling them, okay, we are one of the largest player, we can give you say X percentage cost benefit. That pitch has to change, right? They have to talk about the real problem of the industry, and see how the partnership can be developed in solving that. Definitely it will sometime ask for long term commitments also, but again, they all can be negotiated, provided the solution is right, there is a right intent, there is a right set of investment going into that. Those are, I would say, operational pieces which can be solved, and they can be tied back in the form of an agreement also, right? And with
Sure.
the right treatment given to each and every partner, right?
So let's talk about AI now. So how is AI and machine learning playing role in Uber's procurement strategy?
Oh, great. So, We have been doing RPA and AI for, I would say, last few years. I'm not talking about GenAI as of now, but
Okay.
we have been doing it for years. For example, we have a supplier portal. Under supplier portal, any supplier can log into this portal and find out, their payment status. And now this is all AI and RPA driven, right? There's
Mm-hmm.
no human who's feeding this information.
Okay.
System is fetching information from multiple sources and, telling the status. Similarly, in the approval chain also, some of the checks are done based on RPA, wherein it goes and find whether this person is authorized to approve, is the quotation matching with the requisition value, is the commodity correct, those things are happening.
So, what do you think? How would the supply chain function in Uber would look like in 10 years from now? With the advancements and the kind of technology that you're spending on, or the Gen AI, these kind of things. So, what do you think? What is the future? How will it look like?
Right. So I would say, if we look at what is happening in the Gen AI domain, or how new tools are getting developed, few things that I see happening. One, definitely, some portion of autonomous sourcing definitely would come, because we want to give time back to our stakeholders. We don't want them to be dependent upon us, right? For example, if we have done a rate card, right, I don't need my department or my team member to get into day-to-day transactions, right? Give that empowerment to the business. Let them go and buy on their own, right, by writing very basic queries. And autonomous sourcing definitely is something which is coming up big time. Second is the data predictability, right? Yes, there was a big data concept which was on, that is still there, I won't say, but the amount of data that you are now getting, that helps you to kind of plan better, reduce your supply chain risk. So that is where I see a change that would definitely happen. We will plan better, we'll buy better, and we'll have less disruption, I would say, coming. Third definitely will be on the ESG or the sustainability front. Again, as an organization, we are doing a lot. As a procurement team or a sourcing team, again, we are doing a lot of stuff there. In some countries, there are some regulations which have come up. For example, if I talk about, say, Australia, they have a regulation around modern slavery, and definitely
Mhm.
we changed our whole sourcing process there, that any new supplier coming to our premises or our system, they have to go through the basic modern slavery. So we changed our supplier selection strategy. Think of the scenario that be it E, S, or G, every portion of this becomes like a regulation everywhere, right? We have to tweak our strategies there. So that's where I see change happening again. Fourth, with all the technology coming, there are risks around cybersecurity also, which I won't deny, because if everything has to happen on system, everything has to go to a public domain, or within your private network also, there is always a
Sure.
risk which would be there around data privacy, right? So that will also kind of change how the sourcing and procurement team need to work upon. They can't be simply talking about buying a service. They have to think of those cyber security risk also. So people need to become more digital aware, I would say. And digital aware is not about the tool that you are using. It's all about where your data is coming from, where is it going, what could be the risk around that. So that's where I see a big shift would happen. And I'm sure the type of skill sets or the type of individuals which would be required in few years from now would be different. Either you train the people who you have today, or someone else will someday come and take the position. Someone who's smart enough, digitally fully literate, can think 360 degrees. That's what I see.
Okay. So do you guys expect to move towards more EV side?
We definitely are moving towards EV a lot, and we have a organization goal by 2040. We'll be 100% net zero, irrespective of whatever we are doing as a business, be it mobility business, delivery business, or anything else. Yes, different regions, different countries, they are moving at their own speed based on the availability, the local regulation, and I would say the adaptability of the solution, affordability. Definitely, we are moving there.
Okay. Have you driven an EV?
Uh, Yes, I have. I have not much, maybe a couple of times.
So which is your personal favorite? Tesla, BYD, or the recent one? I mean Tata or Mahindra PE6.
So I've driven Indian EVs, if I remember correctly. Yes, I have driven Tesla also once in US. Being honest, the amount of time I spent more than EV, I was looking at, the vehicle, the features and everything, right? Okay, where is the sound? Why I'm not hearing anything, right? So that's what I would say. Personal favorite could be Tesla, I would say, if I get a chance to buy. And I think there is this news that Tesla would come to India. I've been hearing it for quite some time now. And I think if it is affordable, why not? And let's see.
You talk about Tesla. So Tesla has recently announced about robo taxis, right? So any thoughts on that? What do you think? Is that the real future?
It is the future for sure. Will it kind of, become the only solution? Answer is no, because you need to have as many vehicles, as you have today, and that will take its own time. And again, this is based on AI. System has to learn, may not fit all the, countries or all the cities, right? Because every city, every country has a different traffic behavior, how people kind of, move, commute, or how the roads are, how the traffic signals or regulatory work, right? Yes, it's the future, but it will not replace everything that exists today, I would say. This will be an added layer which might replace maybe 8 to 10%. That's how I think.
So how do you see diversification and risk management evolving in supply chain strategies?
If we talk about diversification again, I think diversity initially was more of a US based agenda, wherein the idea was, what is the variety of suppliers you have. But I would say the concept has changed, especially after, the COVID. In diversification, companies are now talking about, do I need to import or do I need to find someone locally, right? So the supply chain has to be decentralized. That's what is happening big time. You need to ensure that you always get, the supply irrespective of the country, because that's how your company can run. So that is one change that is happening big time in the supply chain. Near shore, in house, and the right set of mix. Second is around sustainability, because sustainability is not just a buzzword, right? I know it's a debatable topic. Some people say that, sustainable supplies are always costly, so, adoption is low. Understood. That's the reality. No one can question that. But again, we need to understand that this is where, the world is moving and you have to move. You can't keep, debating and questioning, right? So finding a sustainable supplier along with your routine supplier is another, supply chain thing that is happening, I would say. You have to build a right set of mix. And third, I would say a very resilient and agile supply chain is another diversification agenda, I would say, that is in the mind of, the procurement professional. How do I ensure that my supplies never stop? It's not about just, having the import versus, the local manufacturing here, but what is it that I ideally should buy to run, my organization, right? So those are some of the things that are happening.
So with so many changes happening in the supply chain space, how can supply chain professionals stay ahead in such a rapidly evolving market?
So few things, as I said, that's what I always look in my team also. One is, do you really know your company, right? Or do you only know your department? So to remain in the domain, to become a solid procurement professional, first know your company. Second, keep yourself aware about whatever is happening in the tech domain and keep yourself, trained on that. Just by talking AI will not happen. Go and learn AI, right? And I'm not saying go and learn coding, right? Yeah, some people might end up learning also. Third, sustainability will not go away. So go and learn sustainability. There are certifications for sustainability. Go and take those also. Fourth, I would say, because the whole supply chain as a domain has become very very popular now, not just in I would say its industry, but in the companies also. So you now have more aware stakeholder who have more expectations from you. So go and learn how to kind of influence your stakeholder more, because they have also become more smarter now. They will not be only talking about cost now. They'll be talking about, I would say agile supply chain. They'll be talking about, new solutions. So that's another thing that I would say people need to learn. So yeah, one has to invest in himself or herself to kind of, ensure that they remain in the domain successful for a larger time.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Brish. This is pretty much that I wanted to ask you today, right? So it's been a great conversation, learning about you, your experience, and the way technology is moving. I'm sure these are interesting times, right? And lot of new stuff is what we got to learn today. So thank you so much.
Thanks a lot, Karan, for hosting me. Yeah, it was
Thank
a
you.
good discussion with you. Yeah.
Thank you.